Hello everyone, this is Gary from Fantastic Fundas. Now in this lecture, we will be doing a lot of factual information about the social reforms in India. See, in earlier lecture, it was not possible for me to explain you each and every fact. I just wanted to give you the basic philosophy, the basic logics. But now in this lecture, I will be talking just the facts, a lot of facts, right? And obviously, I've actually created a flow in all these facts put together. So it will be easier for you to absorb these facts, right? But then there's a lot of rote learning in these facts, so please try to remember them, okay? So it's kind of a revision of the whole of the social reforms done before, but then with lot of additional information. It was not possible to put all of the social reforms put together in one lecture before explaining all of them to you by breaking them into different parts. For example, women, or backward classes, or religious or social reform. Now all of the things I will be putting together in the shape of the facts now. Okay, now just I'll quickly give you the background. It will be very fast lecture. I'll be speaking a little fast, so please try to be with me as far as possible, right? So first of all, I'll talk to you about the characteristics of the social reform, right? So let me just put it here, characteristics, right? Now these characteristics is that the social base, right? What was the social base of these these reform movements? It was basically, and you can say it was essentially middle class only at that time, right? And in fact, these just social reforms, each and each of these reform movements, almost all of them, they were confined to either one region, right? They were related to only one caste, right? They were not doing it for everyone in India. And they were in India in different parts of India, right? At different times they were happening in India, all these social movement that we have talked about, okay? And then they were having considerable, all these movements, right? The common factor was they were having the considerable similarity in their objectives, okay? So the commonality was of the objectives, although these movement was split across throughout India according to region, place, and caste, and part, and time, right? So there was just a commonality of similarity in it, okay? Now, but it was clearly understood at that time by everyone that there can be no social reform. Social reform is not possible without having a religious reform, okay? This I have talked earlier also, right? And thus religious reformation became a necessary precondition, right? Religion had to be transformed. All right, so it was one thing is about the religion, okay? So there is a religion, but then there was also a need of not just eliminating bad practices out of religion, but also introduction of the rationalism, right? Or let's say a religious universalism, that God is one, okay? That all religions are talking about the same thing only, though there might be a little difference in their paths, okay? So these were two important intellectual criterion, rather. In fact, one was rationalism and other was the religious universalism of that period. And basically these were there were cultural struggles, right? Cultural ideological struggles, cultural ideological struggles were happening, okay? And they were obviously they were against the poor or the bad, backward, let's say, not bad, the word should be backward elements of the culture, backward elements of culture, right? Not all things in every culture are good. Every culture, irrespective of who you are, something is good or bad in it, right? So in religious sphere, I can say if I talk about religion, what were they fighting against? They were fighting against the superstition, right? So superstition is one. Then they were fighting against the polytheism. Theism मतलब कि God, poly मतलब बहुत सारे, तो multiple gods, okay? And जो exploitation priest कर रहे थे, तो priest की exploitation की against ऐसा हो रहा था, okay? or in the social sphere it was effort toward emancipation. Okay, agar ye to religion ki baat hogi, let me just write on the new page only. So I will talk to you about the religious changes. Now let me talk to you about the social, in the social sphere, right? This was about the, as I told you, against the superstition, against the polytheism, against the priesthood. In social so sphere, if I talk about, it was about the emancipation. I have talked about emancipation of women, of the backward classes, and the emancipation is related to the more freedoms, right, more liberation from right. And this was done through, a major contribution was of education. And then there was widow remarriage. Okay, widow remarriage was there, right? And then women got power to have some say. उनसे कोई पूछता ही नहीं ना, तो लेकिन उनसे पूछा जाने लग गया, वुमेन दे उनसे पूछा जाने लग गया कि कैसे किया जाए क्या. तो वुमेन दे हैव से इन सोशल एंड रिलीजियस स्फीयर, राइट. एंड देन देयर वाज इरेडिकेशन ऑफ सती. So sati, that is another important factor we talked in detail, right? Now female infanticide was stopped, that is important. Female infanticide word बना है दो words से. infanticide, side का मतलब होता है मारना. Okay, infanticide, this is infant, ये है बच्चा, and then there is side, इसको मतलब है मारना, SCIDE. ओके, तो इन्फेंट को ही मार देते थे, राइट. सो infanticide is there, and then child marriage is there. All this was controlled, right? And these social reforms, so they were religious reforms I just said above, and there were social reforms. And then there were reforms also which focused upon the regeneration of the traditional institutes. Okay, traditional institutes were regenerated. These, which kind of institutes? Traditional institutes, they were being regenerated. And what was being done, what was done for that? There was cultivation of vernacular languages. Okay, so vernacular was made again popular, and obviously this didn't include English, right? And then and for this, an alternative system was created. Alternative system of this education was created. Alternative system of education was created. And then then we had this Indian system of medicine that was revived. So in so much things, right? In this is again all part of reformist, right? Indian system of medicine was brought forward, otherwise there were so many Indians dying without medical facilities. And then there was concern for language, that we should preserve our language. The same concerns we have today were there at that time. Language, art, religion, okay, and then philosophy. We wanted to preserve all this, and we wanted to go back to all this. They were being regenerated through these institutes. Okay, there was more emphasis on religious scriptures against which the social reform movement actually was itself started, right? So that is a problem actually, that the focus of the reform movement was on the scriptures, on the basis of against which the very movement of social religious reform was started, right? And then there was that was the problem, right? We are talking about now the problems here. The focus was on scriptures, which is not so good, because it is against them only started, but it again focused on scriptures, right? That is number one thing. Number two is that there were inadequate focus, right? Inadequate focus on a common heritage. As I talked about earlier also, common heritage was not focused upon, right? And then for example, right, for example, music is a common heritage, or let's say science is a common heritage, literature is a common heritage, and art and architecture, all this is part of common heritage, and technology, all this is part of common heritage. We did not talk about it. Okay, now all this now it was because of British rule over here, कि ब्रिटिश अंग्रेज आएंगे, and then these British rule that middle class, okay, it is because of British rule here that middle class, okay, what will middle class will get an opportunity, okay, middle class gets an opportunity here, and which was a key to modernize, right? And this lead to modernization, and it also led to modernization of India ultimately, right? But the beginning, right, of this, all this was made in the 16, this modernization, right, the beginning of this, though it came started with the British rule to a great extent in India, but a major contribution to this was made by the Christian missionaries. Okay, Christian missionaries played an important role, and Christian missionaries, all this started by the big, like somewhere in 16th and 17th century. That is the time period when it was happening, right? When okay, let me talk about Christian missionaries. Christian missionaries here. These Christian missionaries, they came to India, right, for propagating Christianity. अपने धर्म का प्रचार करने आए थे, right, and they came to India along with the European traders. I talked about it in one of the lectures, how European traders were coming to India, right, and in fact the first person who came, it was they were the Roman Catholic missionaries. Okay. So the Roman Catholic missionaries came, and then it was in 18th century, right? This is early 16th and 17th century, and then in 18th century, what happened that Danish and German, then came the Protestant missionaries, the Protestant, right? And they were either Danes, right? They were Danish or they were Germans. So these people were coming here now, and they would set up their. They would primarily be interested in southern India, South India. That is their main focus, right? And it was actually in the year 1800, right? That's almost that's there the beginning of the 19th century, the year 1800, that for the first time a Baptist, right? A Baptist missionary comes in India, and this was actually set up at a place called Sirampur, and this place Sirampur is in Bengal. Okay, and this was led, this thing over here, this was led by I'm just missing that person's name. I just forgot that. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'll come back to it. Okay, so yeah, it was William Carey, right? So William Carey was there, and there were two more people, M&M, right? There was Marsh. The one was Marsh, and there was third person, right? His name was Marshman. The same names were there, yeah. So William Carey, Marsh, and Marshman were there, right? And it was basically policy of their official opposition in north and western India, that they were first focused on south. Right? The reason they focused on south, because they were opposed vehemently north and western India, right? But it was ultimately in 1813's Charter Act. Right, and by this Wood's Dispatch, actually Wood's dispatch that this Wood Dispatch was in 1854. We discussed about this in detail. That encouragement, right, was given. All this, what did they do? They gave encouragement. इन्होंने encourage किया कि आप जाके Christianity फैलाओ, encouragement, right? And plus, there were lesser restrictions on movement of the Christian missionaries in India. The restrictions जो थी वो कम हो गई अब इनके ऊपर. And in fact, it was that this is in 1830 when in fact 1830 onwards, if I say that Alexander Duff was a person, Alexander Duff, who is chiefly involved in the conversion of the people from various religions, including Hinduism, to Christianity. And this person was very, very active in Bengal, right? And then Christianity, how did they propagated Christianity? Through the teachings of the Bible, right? They would talk about Bible. So that is what they were doing over there. And then they helped in the development of the modern vernacular literature, right? And because they were through doing it through Bible, that all this, their methodology, जो भी इनकी Christian की propagation की होती थी, because of that there was lot of development in the vernacular literature. Because what they would do, they would translate the Bible into vernacular language, local language में उसको convert कर देते थे. जैसे अगर राजस्थान से, राजस्थानी के अंदर उसको जो local आपका भी वहाँ की भाषा होती है, तो आप बोली है जो, उसके अंदर they would just convert it and लोगों को propagate करते थे Christianity फैलाने के लिए, right? and then that means there was a vernacular literature grew, there were new words added to the language, so the language also grew, and then all the social reforms also came at that time. And there was there was, I can say that, denouncement, especially Hindu religion at that time. Okay, so this is what was happening regarding Christianity, right? Now Christian missionaries, all these people, right, they set up various institutions in India. I'm still talking about Christianity only. For example, I've talked to you about the other places in India, but let's see what they did in South India. They set up this thing which is known as the Madura mission. Okay, I will slow down now a bit because there will be a lot of information. So this Madura mission is set up, obviously this is in Tamil Nadu, that goes without saying, it is very clear on its own. This Madura mission was set up by them, by a person. His name was Robert de Nobili. Okay, let me tell you one thing, there will be a lot of actual information, and don't you think that this factual information is not needed for paper. I'm telling you, something out of this will be in your paper. Somehow it might just come in your paper. Please don't worry that there are too much facts. Slowly you will remember these facts. Please listen to this lecture 10 times, 20 times. This particular lecture is so important for you. Okay, now this person, Robert de Nobili, he had a very good knowledge of so many subjects. For example, he knew, Sanskrit, and he knew Tamil, and he knew Telugu. It's very obvious, right? These languages were popular in southern part of India, and after knowing this only you can propagate Christianity. Okay, and then then it was some Danish missionary, right, in Tamil Nadu if we are talking about. Now there was a text in Tamil on grammar, right? So some Danish missionary came, and there was a text on grammar by a Danish. Okay, I would have named it, but I won't. See, the thing is that only important things I'm doing. I'm not going to name every person. Okay, now there was a text on grammar by a Danish missionary. Okay, there was some Danish missionary, and the name of that text is Eisenberg, right? Ziegen Eisenberg. Okay, Balg, Balg, whatever the pronunciation is, right? So so this was particularly now this was in Tamil Nadu only. Okay, so that was in Tamil Nadu. The one is Madura mission, let me repeat it for you, and second is Robert de Nobili, and this was Eisenberg in Tamil Nadu. That was a grammar, right? Danish missionary, and he wrote on grammar. Okay, now then after that there is a person who would write a Christian Puran. Beat it, man, they wrote Christian Puran. There was so much of indigenization at that time. Okay, the Christian Puran was written, right? And who wrote this book? And it was written by Thomas Stephens, St. Stephen College, Thomas Stephens. Okay, he is not that person probably. Obviously, he was St. Stephen. This is Thomas Stephens. It's not the same person, right? But then this, just to remember it. Now this person wrote Christian Puran, and because it's a Puran, it has to be in Indian language, and it was written in it was written in Konkani, right? And that was the Konkani dialect, and obviously the script of this was at that time Devanagari. Okay, Devanagari, right? And then there was an important person. Now this is Christian Puran by Thomas Stephens, right? I am going to tell you a lot of names now, right? Then there came a person whose name was Charles Grant. Okay, this can come as an independent statement in your paper. It was Thomas Stephens who set up the Christian Puran, wrote the Christian Puran. Christian Puran was written in Konkani dialect. True or false? I mean, you will get confused if you don't know this, right? Then there was somebody called Charles Grant. This person, Charles Grant, he said that if we he said a long statement, right? I'll just tell you that statement. It's not the exact statement. It's what I remember. It says that when we plant our language, our knowledge, offices and religion in Asiatic territories, we shall put a great work beyond the reach of contingencies. ठीक है, इसने कहा था कि एक बारी हमने जब अपनी नॉलेज, ऑफिस, अपना धर्म वहां पर एशियाटिक में लगा दिया तो फिर तो भी हमारा राज पक्का पक्का हो जाएगा. Okay, so this was important, right? Then, to understand Indians better and to intrude into Indian system, there's a very famous poem by Kalidas. Okay, this is the poem, right? Don't confuse it that it's a novel or something. So there was a poem called Meghdutam. Who wrote Meghdutam, bhai? Now, this Meghdutam, it was written by Kalidas, and what happened with this book was written in classical Sanskrit. This book, the text of this book, right? And this Meghdutam by Kalidas, this is a poem, and this was translated by H. Wilson. Okay, H. Wilson. This is an important fact. Please don't mind, this is just important facts, right? So I just wanted to share it all with you over here, right? Then there were a lot of important newspapers which were published by missionaries to promote the Christianity, right? And some of these newspapers were like, there was a newspaper called Friends of India. Okay, there was a Friends serial also, right? Anyway, so the Friends of India, right? And then this was obviously in English. And then there was another newspaper by them that was known as Samachar Darpan. This was also for propagation of Christianity in India. Samachar Darpan. And then there was Digdarshan, ya Divya Darshan, ya Digdarshan. Okay, this was in Bengali. Digdarshan was in Bengali, right? And this was in English. Okay, so these were few important newspaper, and what these would do, through these newspapers they would teach the teachings given by the Bible. Okay, and and they would thus through this they would try to bring the modern values, right? So Christian missionaries, the newspapers which they use for their propaganda were the Friends of India, Samachar Darpan and Digdarshan. Okay, and through these they taught Bible and other modern ideas to the society. Okay. And similarly, then there was on these lines only there was something called the book is known as Soot's. Okay, Soot's Cry to Britain, and this book was written by James Pegg. Now this became quite popular at that time, and this also focused a lot on modern values, and this is of typical importance for your exam. Please don't forget this one, right? Now basically what I'm trying to convey to you, that these missionaries, they were very active, and and they were involved in those activities which helped in more than a thing. For example, they facilitated growth of modern ideas, right? They were saying, oh no, we are not converting people, we are just modernizing India, right? Yes, they were modernizing India, no doubt about it, but at the same time they were also propagating Christianity, right? They were spreading Christianity. So that is the thing about these Christian missionaries, that they came to India, right? Those who came to India, right? Now, but the single most important factor because of which social reforms in India took place, what is that? The most important factor, that factor is education. Okay, education as a factor, right? What happened that now this education, this modern Western education, this came to India, right? And this came to India only after the Enlightenment age, right? Okay, let me just write it again. Enlightenment in Europe. Now, it was only after the Enlightenment in Europe that education could focus in India, right? And what happened in this? There were, as I said earlier, rational ideas, modern values, and see, when this Enlightenment came, there, as the rationality came to us, rational ideas came, there came modern values to it. तो उससे क्या हो गया, when these ideas came to India, that facilitated our this I can say that socio-intellectual revolution. Okay, the social intellectual revolution came to India, and this is of course happening in 19th century, right? And this is what is also known as the Indian Renaissance. Okay, Renaissance. right? This is what is happening, right? And we'll see the impact of this in Indian society now, that how Indians were getting educated and bringing the changes, right? So let us begin with the Indians now. See, there was now I'll be very fast about this. Now Raja Ram Mohan Rai was there, because we talked about him in detail already. In 1817 he sets up an institute which is called as the Hindu College, right? Hindu College. This is Raja Ram Mohan Roy setting it, Hindu College, okay? And then all this was set up, right? And there's one more person actually who played a role in setting of Hindu College. His name was okay, I'm just missing. Yeah, it was David. It was David Hare only. Okay, David Hare was there, right? And there were a lot of other people, right? And in fact, it was one of the first institution of Western education in the whole of the Asia, right? This Hindu College over here. This was the first Asian institute on Western education. Okay, on Western education. This is important fact, right? In fact, there was also something called because there were Western ideas, as I just told you, right? So those Western ideas included Western science also, right? And to spread those European sciences. This newspaper, this was Hindu College, was in general consciousness, right? Logicalness, rationality. But then there were European sciences also developing in the Europe, right? And those sciences came to India, right? And there was a society set up for translating these European sciences, right? For the work of translation, society was set up as Translation Society for European sciences, and it was the name of the person who set it. He was M.L. Sarkar. Mahinder Lal Sarkar was his name, right? And he established Indian Association for Cultivation of Sciences. The name of the association he established was Indian Association, Indian Association for Cultivation of Sciences, right? Now this was done, right? Now this was done in 1876. But let me tell you, this question was asked in UPSC prelims in one of the years, that who set up the Indian Association for Cultivation of Sciences in India. This is very important fact, because it is through this that science is entering India. This is very, very a huge step for modernization of India, the modern science in India. And M.L. Sarkar, Mahinder Lal Sarkar, he played a very important role. Mahinder Lal Sarkar, his name 1876 के अंदर ही ऐसा वो कर रहे हैं, ठीक है जी. खैर, then so we talked about the education which is coming through the Hindu College, right? Then we talked about science, right, which is set up by M.L. Sarkar for translating of Western European sciences, right? And then when people intellectually develop, they do debates. अरे पढ़ लिख के करते क्या, लड़ते ही हैं तो बहुत सारे लोग, so what happened, there was something called a Benares debating club set up. Benares debating club was set up, right? And in fact, and not only this, right? And people, and for science there was I'm sorry for that. The more science was set up, scientific societies were made up, and that included, for example, there was one was this was for translation, okay. Then there was Aligarh Scientific Society also, Aligarh Scientific Society. Okay, so this was set up, and then there was then there was Gopal Hari Deshmukh, right? And because we talked about casteism, right? Gopal Hari Deshmukh, very important person from our history, and he wrote the book which is known as Jati Bhed. Let me just write it properly. Jati Bhed. Okay. Now this book basically it criticized the caste system in India, right? And so at the same time in India, if I talk about against the caste system and for the social reforms, there was a book, there was actually a newspaper against the caste system, right? It was known as Bombay Darpan. Okay. And Bombay Darpan, it was set up by Bal Shastri Jambekar. Okay. Bal Shastri Jambekar. These names are all very important for your paper. Please remember all these names, okay? See, I could have given you normal man की list बनाकर आपको website पे डाल देता. I could have given it to you. My purpose is also to tell you their importance, and then that would have been Herculean task that I would make a table of, you know, this you can do on your own. But these are very important, right? So these people are important for caste over here, and this was in Marathi, right? Bombay है तो मराठी लगभग हो गए वहाँ के ज़्यादातर, right? Most of the things from Bombay they would be Marathi. These old newspapers, that this was a weekly newspaper, right? So main aim was to bring, you know, new values and the new ideas overall. That is what I have been repeating and again, right? And then there was also this was about caste system, right? And for widow remarriage, actually there was something also set up, and it was known as vidva. Okay, vidva vidha उत्तेजक मंडल. Okay, विधवा विवाह उत्तेजक मंडल, provocator of the marriage of the widow. English encouragement for widow remarriage, and this was set by Pandit Vishnu Parshuram Shastri. Okay, this was set up by Pandit Vishnu Parshuram Shastri. Important thing is a Brahman was coming in favor of the widow remarriage, so it is a big thing, you can see for yourself. Okay, and then in fact the R.G. Bhandarkar was also very popular in this spreading of social awareness, right? R.G. Bhandarkar, I've already talked his details, right? And in fact why I'm mentioning him here, I just wanted to Ramkrishna Gopal Bhandarkar, the R.G. Bhandarkar, right? He also got the title of Maharishi because of his so much of immense contribution for the scholarly activities which brought changes, right, to this part, right? Now, so this was the main things about the people, right? Now, if I quickly tell you about the theory of the Raja Ram Mohan Roy, I've already discussed it. I won't be discussing those facts. I just wanted to bring out certain things which are very, very factual and would not have fitted into those lectures. Okay, so it was Raja Ram Mohan Roy. His ideology, right, was about, we know that the universal God is there, rationality is there, right? Now, the important point is. He wrote this book. It's called Tufat ul Murwahidin, right? Tufat ul Murwahidin. Okay, so he wrote this book, and this book basically means a gift to Unitarians, right? Basically the worshippers of one God. And this book was in Persian, right? And then he translated a lot of Upanishad into Bengali, right? So he translated Upanishad because he had to argue people against the sati system. So he translated in Bengali all the Upanishads. Okay, so that shows how intelligent a person he was. Okay, so he translated in Upanishads. Let me just write it here. Upanishads, right? So that was his idea, right? And then more about it is this, that we know that how he sets up Vedanta College at Calcutta also, right? He sets up Atmiya Sabha. When he sets up Atmiya Sabha, I just forgot to mention earlier one important name about Atmiya Sabha, and that name was Ghulam Abbas. This is important name of which is associated with Atmiya Sabha, which right, and he was quite instrumental in it, right? And then he was the first person who carried on एजुकेशनल मूवमेंट अगेंस्ट द प्रेस ऑर्डिनेंस. वी टॉक्ड अबाउट दैट. ही अपोज द प्रेस के ऊपर जो लिमिटेशंस लगाई गई थी, राइट? एंड जो कि जॉन एडम्स ने लगाई थी, राइट? एनीवे, राइट, ही आल्सो ब्रिंग्स अप मिरात उल अखबार एज हिज न्यूज़पेपर, मिरात उल अखबार. My purpose, I am repeating again, of this lecture is to give you lot of actual information by adding little some understanding, little understanding about the those factual information wherever possible. Okay, and that, so I won't go into more detail of Raja Ram Mohan Rao here. Then we know about Brahmo Samaj, right? We have done that in quite a detail, right? Now just just few things of Brahmo Samaj, few typicalities of Brahmo Samaj that which came at that time was their prayer book. The prayer book of the Brahmo Samaj is called Brahmo Sapna. Okay, Brahm Upasana. Let me just write it clearly so that it's clear for everyone. Brahm Upasana. Okay, Brahm ki Upasana, Brahm's worship, right? It was there, right? And then Keshav Chandra Sen was there. He also sets up KC Sen. We have already talked about him also, and he had earlier set up this called Sangat Sabha. He was quite a radical actually. This Keshav Chandra Sen radical tha ye काफी ज़्यादा, and he sets up Sangat Sabha, right? And इसका newspaper था Keshav Chandra Sen का, जिसका नाम था, his newspaper's name was Indian Mirror, भारत का शीशा, Indian Mirror, right? And Calcutta College was established by Keshav Chandra Sen. So Calcutta College is there by Keshav Chandra Sen. Okay, and then these were like about the Keshav Chandra Sen, right? And in fact, he was the first one in India who tours India thoroughly, right? Who travels India's length and breadth. And then there also was Prarthana Samaj. We have done that in detail, okay? And then there was Ved Samaj, right? And which was by Sridharalu Naidu. So there's no need to go into detail of that in any case, right? Now the first social reform association in India was also formed at this time. So this is about the first social reform association. There were many associations formed in India. The first social reform association was formed. It was named as Indian Reform Association. Okay, this is important fact which you must remember, and this is related to the social reform changes that were happening in India. Okay, so that was it. Okay, Social Reform Association. And but then later on those splits take place. We know that how Adi Brahmo Samaj is by Debendranath Tagore, right? And then okay, let me just write it for you. Adi is by Debendra, which is the son of Dwarkanath Tagore and father of Rabindranath Tagore. Okay, that the Adi Brahmo Samaj. And then the Brahmo Samaj of India, this is under Sen, right? And then in 1878 there is another split, right? This split was in 1865, right? And then 1878 वाला जो split होता है, टूट जाता है ब्रह्मो समाज, मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया. उससे क्या बनता है? There is Anand Mohan Bose and all, right? They make this Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, right? And then the other part is there was see, in the formation of Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, one person who played important role was Anand Mohan Bose. I've mentioned it, but the other person I did not mention earlier. His name is Shivnath Shastri, right? Shivnath Shastri. And this Keshav Chandra Sen, right? He's not happy, so he also splits and forms his own. Keshav Chandra Sen is also forming his Nav Vidhan. We talked about this also earlier, right? I just wanted to name all of them together, so I just repeated it, right? Anyway, so basically all these things started. This Nav Vidhan started believing in Christianity also, right? And Vaishnavism also, right? So but overall, if we talk about, then there was something called as Hindu Mela, which is again a social reform institution, that Hindu Mela. It was set up by Raj Narayan, right? Raj Narayan. This is important because see, all the Hindus would get together here for this, and they would be united and they would meet together, right? And then I talked to you when I talked about Western parts. I talked to you about the Paramhans Mandali, right? Paramhans Mandali. I've done this, right? And then it was actually this Paramhans Mandali, if you remember, it was based on the same concepts of unity of God, rationality, universal brotherhood, all those things, right? Now, I won't go into detail of this. M.G. Ranade was there, right? We know this, right? He played important role in setting up a Prarthana Samaj, right? And M.G. Ranade, so let me just write it here. M.G. Ranade, right? This M.G. Ranade, he was also associated with something called Deccan Society, right? So who are the people associated with Deccan Society? They will give you a list and you will be confused. This is for your prelim only. This is highly helpful, mainly prelim lecture only. For mains, you will not be able to recall so much. This is primarily for prelim, but if you can recall, you please write it in the mains. This will give you a lot of marks, right? Then there was Ramji Ranade, right? He started this Subodh Patrika. Okay, now this Subodh Patrika, it was a night, it was a night school. That is why it is important, right? He said, right. It's not Subodh Patrika, so that must be a newspaper. I guess I'm recalling it wrong here. So anyway, right, he also sets up night school. Let's not call it a Subodh Patrika. So if what he does is he sets up this night school also over here, right? And then MG Ranade, he also founded this national social conference. Okay, National Social Conference was founded by him in 1887, right? And this was obviously at Bombay, because it's all in western part of India we are talking about, right? And this National Social Conference, it conducted its session with the Congress at the same time and at the same place, okay? And this was in 1887. That is why it is important, because this is working at the same time. जहाँ कांग्रेस का सेशन होता था, ये अपने सेशन भी कर रहे होते थे वहाँ पे, National Social Conference, okay? Now, after this comes an important fact which I did not talk about earlier, right? These people were also very important for the social reforms, and there was a lady, very important for our paper this year, and this is Pandita Ramabai, right? And she actually founded Arya Mahila Samaj. I read it somewhere in some newspaper some time back, so that is why I'm saying this is important for your paper. In 2015, this is good. And then Pandit Ramabai, she founded this Arya Mahila Sabha, right? Now this Arya Mahila Sabha, because there's a lot of feminist movements going on in India, so that is why this is important, because this is the first feminist organization of India, right? And this is also important for your mains examination GS paper, apart from history, when you talk about the condition improvement of the women condition, right? So Arya Mahila Sabha, right? And Pandita Ramabai, she also wrote this, the high caste Hindu woman. She wrote this, the high caste Hindu woman. Okay, the high caste Hindu woman, right? And she also founded Sharda Sadan, right? So that was contribution, right? And then she also founded this Mukti mission. So Pandita Ramabai is a very, very important person. She is doing so much, so that is why we are reading about her in history, and she becomes important for our exam also, right? So all these were basically set up, Sharda Sadan, or this was written, the the high caste Hindu woman, or Mukti mission. These primarily focused on the condition of the widows, right? And basically to encourage widows, that there should be good condition, to encourage the society overall, okay? And then regarding there was one more person who actually did a lot for social reform at this time, and this person was known as D.K. Karve, whatever you want to call. He is also Maharishi D.K. Karve, right? And he sets up this Nishkam Karma Mat. Please don't be worried or don't be scared. घबराइए मत, डरिए मत. नए फैक्ट्स देखे सब याद हो जाएंगे. लेक्चर को 3-4 बार सुनेंगे, 10 बार सुनिए अगर नहीं याद हो रहे हैं. You will remember them all, okay? So there was Nishkam Karma Mat, and then there was also something called later on Seva Sadan, right? The Seva Sadan, it was set up by Malabar, right? Malabari, okay? This was in paper actually, that is why I am talking about this thing, Malabari. And this was there was also contribution of Dayaram Diwan in this, right? Dayaram Diwan in the formation of the Seva Sadan, okay? And in fact, Malabari, this person also he wrote this person was one of the person responsible for passing of age of consent bill, under which the minimum age for marriage was raised. So that is why this person is very important, Malabari, and he wrote this thing called infant marriage and enforced widowhood, okay? So that is why this name becomes important for our lectures, okay? Basically, see, a lot of these people are doing a lot of things. If you, even if you remember 5 out of these, you never know that what might just come in your paper. Okay, and then we have done Arya Samaj movement. We know Swami Dayanand Saraswati and Satyarth Prakash and India for Indians. That was his motto. भारत भारतीयों के लिए ही है, उसका उनका कहना था. So and then see, for against casteism, I'm just reminded of, and then there was one against casteism. Which one? It was known as Jat Path Todak Mandal. Okay, Jat Path Todak Mandal, and this Jat Path Todak Mandal, it was by Bhai Paramanand. Okay, Bhai Paramanand, right? And then there was Theosophical Society, about which I have talked to you, right? And see, theosophical word, okay, let me just the theosophical word jo hai, I've already talked about it all in detail, but theosophy means, it means divine wisdom. Okay, theosophy is divine wisdom. काफ़ी अच्छे से हमने इसके डिटेल में बात की है. ओके, एंड दे बिलीव्ड इन वननेस ऑफ गॉड एंड आवर स्पिरिचुअल सर्च, एवरीथिंग, राइट? एंड दे बिलीव्ड इन occult. I missed this word while I was talking about theosophy. They believed in occult. Occult is the supernaturalism and possibility of bringing the supernaturalism under the human control. Okay, and these people, they believe in active association of brotherhoods and all that thing, right? And talked about the role of Annie Besant in it, right? And Annie Besant at this time, she also wrote how India wrought freedom, right? And actually and how India got freedom. Okay, and okay, no, the word over is not got. I'm sorry, this word is over is not got. The word here is wrought, right? But eventually we got the freedom, right? Gradually we got it, right? And then she talked. Then there was, in general, right, they would talk about the status of women, the future of Indian politics, the case for India, right? So all those things, right, were happening in India, right? And then there was other books by this lady, and what were those books? She wrote about these books, right? Okay, let me just name her books which are important for your paper, not all her books. The first book is The Status of Women. She wrote this book, right? And then, as I told earlier, How India Wrought Freedom. Then we will talk about the political status of women, right? The future of Indian politics. The future of Indian politics. That was her book. The future of Indian politics. Okay, and then the case for Indian politics. Then she wrote The Case for India. Okay, and then she finally wrote Marriage. The name of the book, right, is Marriage as It Was, As It Is, and As It Should Be. So those were few of the things written by her. Okay, and in this she makes a plea for a social reform. Okay, so that was basically about theosophy, right? Then in our one of lectures we talked about Swami Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahans. We talked about those people, right? And Vivekananda, he, as I said earlier also, we are talking about Vivekananda over here. He believed in a social action theory, right? He believed in social action, and then he believed, right, he said that the worship of the god is symbolic, right? It's symbolic. Our real focus should be on action, right? आप जब भगवान, it's symbolic only. आपको असली काम आपका है कर्म करना, right? It is a book, and he said that a service of poor service of God. I talked about it, right? Now he believed that action without knowledge without action is useless, right? And actually his belief was of Advait, ek minute, let me just write it, Advait Vedanta. That was his philosophy. And what do you mean by Advait? Advait is monotheist, right? Single God ko mane wala Bhagwan ek hai, right? There is just single truth, and which is a permanent truth. There is some one perpetual truth, right? And then he talks about identity of the self and the world, right? this was a quite a practical form of Vedanta philosophy. And see, even Adi Shankaracharya follows Advait Vedant, but his Advait Vedant is different, right? Adi Shankaracharya's Advait Vedant is different from Vivekananda's Advait Vedant, right? Because his Advait Vedant was only religion, right? And there was like over here the focus was on oneness, right? So that's how it was. And his whole idea of Swami Vivekananda, they were based on 4 ideas. The 4 pillars of Swami Vivekananda are there, and that number 1 is the awakening of the masses. Awakening of masses. Okay, I'm not doing Vivekananda whole of it again, just the few facts which did not fit in earlier, so I just wanted to mention at a different place. Okay, so one is the awakening of the masses, right? That is number 1. And then you must have seen Vivekananda's photo somewhere. He looks very strong, right? So he talked about strong physical and moral strength. So one is awakening masses ki ho, physical moral strength ho. Then he talked about a unity of Indians by spirituality ideas. Okay, so he believed in unity on the basis of spirituality. And the number 4 was he said that have pride and faith. Have pride and faith, in glory of ancient India. That was his focus. Okay, ancient India, that was his focus, right? And he sets up this Vedanta society in New York, right? Okay, let me just put it over here. Vedanta society. Earlier lecture focused more on philosophy, on details of his, right? This is more about factual information. So Vedanta Society was set up by him in New York City, right? And then his lectures, they were published, right? From Colombo to Almora, all his lectures were published, right? And he also wrote a text on Yog Bhakti, Gyan Yog, Karma Yog, Raj Yog, and he wrote text on all those, okay. And he also published 2 journals, okay. What are those journals? Those are, I'll just name them. They are important for us. One is Udbodhan, right? Number 1, and second was Prabudh Bharat, okay. So these were 2 main journals written by him. Okay. Now after this, I'll talk to you quickly about all the caste related social reformers and all those important factual information. Important person, as I said earlier, there was Jyotirao Govindrao Phule. Jyotirao Govindrao Phule was his name, Jyotirao Govindrao Phule. And this person, right, he was one of the earliest person of anti-Brahminical movement, right? And he supported Dalit and the peasant leader, right? He was very famous, right? Now then there were other people also. He also focused on one was caste, and the second issue was he worked for the emancipation of the women in the country, right? And for this purpose, for the emancipation of the women of the country, Jyotirao Govindrao Phule, he was supported by a person he called as okay, let me just write the full name over here: Krant Jyoti Savitri. Okay, this is Savitri Bhai Phule. Okay, and they were the pioneer of the, in fact, women education in India. Jyotiba Phule and Kranti Jyotiba Phule, they were important for women education. One of the pioneers of Indian pioneers of female education in India, right? And then we read about Satya Shodhak Samaj was set up, right? We've heard about it earlier also. There was Satya Shodhak Samaj. It was set up later on after the it was somewhere in around 1870s के अंदर ये setup हुआ था. Satya Shodhak Samaj, the Satya Shodhak Samaj. Okay, let me just write this word clearly. Samaj. Okay. This is Satya Shodhak Samaj, and this was in 1873 actually, right? And it means the Society of the Truth Seekers, and it was basically set up again for the liberation of the Shudras and all these outcasts and the lower classes from the clutches of the Brahminical class, and so that their exploitation does not happen, right? And in fact, Shahuji, we have read about, read about one Shahuji, but this is not that Shahuji. This is different, right? And Shahuji supports this Satya Shodhak Samaj, okay? And then their this Satyashodhak Samaj, their main newspaper was known as Deen Bandhu. Okay, Deen Bandhu. Let me write it clearly. Deen Bandhu. Right. So Deen Bandhu was there, right, and the Jyotiba Phule, he also wrote this Sarvajanik Satya Dharm Pustak. Okay, it is known as Sarvajanik. The focus was on Sarvajanik. It is for everyone, and Sarvajanik means for everyone, public. And Satya Dharm, what is the true dharm? He talks about that in this book, Satya Dharm. And Pustak, that was the name of his one of the books that he wrote, Jyotiba Phule, right? And then he also wrote Gulam Giri. That is another book by him, Gulam Giri. And in this book, it talks about the injustices which were perpetuated by higher class on the lower class, right? And then he also wrote a pamphlet, right? This was for this was against caste system. And then there was after Gulam, there was something called Ishara, okay, Ishara karna. And it was a pamphlet. It was for the peasant rights. As I told you earlier, Jyotiba Phule was fighting for peasant and the people of the people suffering because of the caste system. Okay, and then in fact, Jyotiba Phule is considered to be guru by Dr. Ambedkar later on. Jyotiba Phule is considered to be his guru by Dr. Ambedkar, which is very big thing, right? And he's Dr. Ambedkar had 3 gurus actually. The one was Jyotiba Phule, right? One was Buddha, and third was Kabir. These 3 were gurus of Dr. Ambedkar, if you don't know that, right? And Dr. Ambedkar also set up an organization later on, which is known as Bahishkrit Hitkarani Sabha. Bahishkrit Hitkarani. The people who have been outcast by the society, for the welfare of them, this society was made. Bahishkrit Hitkarani Sabha, and the society, or Sabha hai, and this was formed in 1924, right? And this was basically society for the protection of the interest of the outcast, as I said, right? And then Ambedkar also started publishing his journal, which was known as now let me just talk more about Ambedkar later on comes. This is known as the Mook Nayak, and this was again for the these against the caste systems of the time, right? Mook Nayak, right? And Mook Nayak means, a Nayak means a hero, and Mook means who cannot speak. So it was a leader of the silent, right? And then he also sets up Ambedkar ki baat hi abhi hum kar rahe hain, right? Let me just put it over here in different colors so that it's easier for you to see this. This all thing over here is by Ambedkar. Okay, now he was called Guru. This Jyotiba Phule was called Guru by Dr. Ambedkar, and after that I've been telling you all things about Dr. Ambedkar, right? And so he wrote this journal, right, called as Mook Nayak, right? And then he also brings this up, which is known as Mahar ya Mahad, as you want to call it, right? Let me just write it over here, Mahad, or Mehed, or Meher, as you want to call it. This is known as Mehed Satyagrah. This was led by Dr. Ambedkar, and it is basically in the Konkan region of Maharashtra. Okay, where this was done, right? This was basically to open all the wells and temples for the lower classes, right? And in fact, Dr. Ambedkar also went to Round Table Conference, and at a Round Table Conference, he demanded that there should be separate electorate for the depressed classes, right? And in fact, this also leads to Pune Pact. This demand of Dr. Ambedkar leads to Pune Pact also, which we will talk in detail later on, and that is with Mahatma Gandhi, right? And then Dr. Ambedkar also wrote a book. It's known as Annihilation of Caste. Okay, Annihilation of Caste, Annihilation of Caste. Okay. This was by Dr. Ambedkar, Annihilation of Caste. And then in later on, in 1942, Dr. Ambedkar founded a Scheduled Caste Federation. Okay, Scheduled Caste Federation, and also he founded Bharatiya Buddha Mahasabha. One was Scheduled Caste Federation he started, and other was Bharatiya Buddha Mahasabha, because he left Hinduism because of caste system and he joined Buddhism, right? And if I have to talk about the contribution of Dr. Ambedkar, see, his slogan was educate, organize and agitate. Okay, his slogan was is educate, पहले जानिए, देन खुद को ऑर्गेनाइज कीजिए एंड देन फिर एजुटेट कीजिए. ओके, दिस इज व्हाट हाउ द सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस आल्सो work, right? So that was about Dr. Ambedkar. We have done this in quite a detail. Please remember this, right? I hope you do. It's pretty simple, right? Mook Nayak and Bahishkrit Hitkarini Sabha, and then annihilation of the caste, and then Scheduled Caste Federation, and the Mehd Satyagraha was by him, and then Bharatiya Buddha Mahasabha was also set up by him. This all is part of Dr. Ambedkar, right? So we are done with Dr. Ambedkar. Now I'll give you a quick reference over here of the Justice Party, right? Justice Party. Now this Justice Party, it was set up by three people, right? One was T.N. Nair, other was Tyagaraja Chetty. Okay, let me just write it here. T.N. Nair, right? Then second person was Tyagaraja Reddy, and then third person was Natesa Mudaliar. Okay, Natesa Mudaliar. Important names hai तीनों. It's very easy to remember them. Now I'm going to do something which might offend some of you people. My humble apologies before I even say the thing. This is just for the sake of memory, right? So T.N. Nair is pretty simple, right? T.N.S. Tamil Nadu Nair. You can remember that is not a real name. This is just a formula in my mind that I have made, but it does not in any kind of disrespect to anyone. Okay, just to remember the name Tamil Nadu Nair, right? And then Tyagaraja is pretty simple. Okay, let me just not get into more of it, right? Let's stop it here only. So it's pretty simple. T.N. Nair, Tyagaraja Reddy and Natesa Mudaliar, right? And everything is with T.N. only, right? One is T.N. Nair, then you expand T is Tyagaraja, and this is Natesa Mudaliar, right? And they said, they also set up this. They set up Justice Party, and this is in 1916. And they also set up this South Indian Liberal Federation, right, which would be demanding reservation in Legislative Council. South Indian Liberal Federation, South Indian Liberal Federation. This is set up by them, right? And they look for concessions in education public appointments, right? Anyway, right, it was, but in fact if I talk about equality and more of social reform, Justice Party was also for this purpose only, the social reform. But if I talk more about it from the South Indian perspective, then there was important movement. This is known as the self-respect movement, right? And this was in 1925, and it was by E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar, right? E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar. Okay, and they believe, of course, in all those things: equality, social reform, rationality, and all those things, right? And this person, E.V. Rama Naikar, also becomes the president of Justice Party, which I just talked to you few minutes back, right? And then they also included Dravidian and Marxian ideology, right? So that was with them, right? And they brought important social impact, right? And the name of their journal is also important, and the name of their journal was Kudi Arasu. I'm sorry if the pronunciation is not right. Kudi Arasu was the name. This basically Kudi Arasu nothing but a self-respect movement, right? Somebody can translate it. Kudi Arasu's real meaning, if anyone from South India is listening to this video, please put it in the comment section, right? So this was happening, right? And this all is happening around Tamil Nadu. If I talk to you about Kerala, in Kerala, as I said, there was a lot of focus on education, right? Because Kerala is still one of the most educated states of India, and so there was a literary awareness drive, right? So there was focus on the on the literacy, right? So to bring literacy, there was an awareness drive, and it was carried especially among the Ezavas, right? Ezavas is is a population of Kerala, right? And it was this literary awareness drive was were done by Diwan Madhav Rao. Okay, this name is not so important. I'm just mentioning it. You can skip this. Just this one name. You have to mention all the other names right now. Later on, it is the Shri Narayan Guru, right, who founded the Shri Narayan Guru. He started this movement called Aruvipuram movement, right? Shri Narayan Guru, and the movement he starts, it is known as the Aruvipuram movement, right? Aruvipuram movement. Right, and this movement basically, and they also founded this Shri Narayan Dharam Pripalini Yogam, Shri Narayan Dharam Pripalini Yogam, right? This is what they set up, right? And in fact, the important person who was associated, see Izawa, it's about Izavas, right? And Kumaran Asan was a famous Malayali poet, right? And who played a great role in the social reform movements, right? His name is Kumaran Asan, okay? Some name like this, I'm just having a rough memory of this. I do not remember the exact name, but something like this was the Kumaran Asan was the main person, and he is known for his social reforms that he brought. Okay, and then after that there was T.K. Madhavan, right? And who T.K. Madhavan? Madhavan is a hero in Bollywood, and he comes from South India only, and I can somehow have to relate him to Kerala. So this T.K. Madhavan, he established links with the Gandhian movement of SNDP, right? And in fact, this person is responsible for also Vaikom Satyagraha movement. This is very important movement, Vaikom Satyagraha. Right, and he established links with Gandhi ji, this T.K. Madhavan, okay, and he again focused on opening up of public roads and temples for everyone, right? And then in South India we had this Guru Vayur Satyagraha also done. Guru Vayur Satyagraha. Now this Satyagraha, it was conducted by a person called as K. Kelappan. And this K. Kelappan, right, and similarly this was in Nayars, if I talk about, right, there was a different movement carried on, right? And then at that time, to highlight the achievements of the Nayar, a book was written by C.V. Raman, right? C.V. Raman wrote a book, Martand Varma, okay, Martand Varma. That was the name of the book also, and to highlight the achievements of the Nayars, right? And in the same way, so these are the few main people, right? And the last, I would like to mention the last name of this very heavy lecture for you is Chandu Menon. Okay, let's call him Chandu Menon. And इसने क्या लिखा? इसने लिखा Indu Lekha. Okay, he wrote Indu Lekha, and this is, I'm telling you, this is important for your paper. This particular book, Chandu Menon, by Chandu Menon's Indu Lekha, is actually important for your paper now, right? So with this, your social religious reform movements ends over here, right? So I will just quickly end the lecture with just one request. Please share this lecture with others. I'll just say this very quickly. And second thing is, you can subscribe to our channels for all future videos. All the videos will come directly into your mailbox. You can click here for subscribing. Okay, so that is all, and thank you so much for your patience and watching this lecture. I hope aap sabhi clear kare prelim bhi or mains bhi. I really pray for all you people that you clear prelim paper and mains as well, right? So thank you for watching once again.